Howdy, Ags. For those joining us on the live stream, we're going to get started in just a few minutes. Right now, we're going through lunch, and we'll get started with Dr. Joyce Alexander in just a few minutes. Thank y'all for joining us on the live stream. Howdy, Ags. Welcome to the August luncheon of the Brazos County A&M Club. We've got a busy day. It's good to see so many faces. This week, we're even joined by, it looks like, 10 people on a live stream. So wave to everybody on the live stream. Hi, guys. From the live stream, if you didn't know, we are live streaming all of our luncheons from now on for the foreseeable future. So if you ever feel like you don't want to join us here in person, you're welcome to join us via live stream on Facebook and YouTube. So to begin, a pledge, if you'll, Ross Brady will lead us in the pledge, please. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we don't have a Texas flag today, but we can still honor the Texas flag, I tell you. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. All right, and Bob Palmar is to bless our food. Thank you.
Please pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you so much for the opportunity we have to get together with friends and neighbors. Pray that you continue to watch over our families, continue to watch over this community, this state, and this nation. Father, we leave everything in your hands, and we know that you will continue to guide us in the path that will bring great release, great health to the entire nation. At this time, Father, we're so thankful that you continue to give us an abundance of resources so that we can continue to live our lives as you want us to, as you lead us to. Thank you, Father, for the blessing of this food. We pray this in your spirit, in your son's name. Amen.
Well, Ags, there's been a lot of happenings in the Brazos County and the Brazos Valley over the last several months, as many of you are aware. But the club, even though we haven't been meeting in person as often as we would have liked, the club and the officers and the board have been busy in many different ways trying to build awareness for the club and also find new events for the club. So we'll talk more about those at the end of the meeting, but there is a new concept that I talked about last week or last month called Aggie Meetups. And those Aggie Meetups actually start this week. There's an Aggie Meetup, and we'll talk more about it. But remember, Aggie Meetups are a way to small group get together with other Aggies and things that are outside of the realm of a luncheon or a howdy hour. They could be things like going bowling or going golfing, for example. Or going to a brewery. There's many different options. So if you'd ever like to host an Aggie Meetup, you have an event that you'd like to go do, and you'd like to have other Ags from the Brazos County A&M Club join you, please let me know. Please let myself and Marcy Rayleigh know, and we'll get you added to the calendar. But without further ado, Carla Roscoe to introduce our speaker. Actually, I'm sorry. Do we have any new people in attendance? Any new faces? New faces? I don't see many new faces. Actually, I do see one new face. Okay. Well, stand up, say your name. Don't be shy. Come on. We're all friends here.
We just moved here a little over a year ago, so I came to one other luncheon. And then I was excited to with education.
Great. Welcome. No more familiar faces. And then a quick note about memberships. We're always looking to increase our membership ranks. So, Lisa, did you have a few things to say on membership?
Yeah. The payment part. Would everyone please, has everyone here signed up for next year? It's kind of that time where we start taking our dues. Remember, we don't do first of the year stuff. It starts when our board officers change over. But more than that, a lot of folks here maybe have already renewed their membership. But would you please take some of these cards and just like we did before, remind people when they have a card, it's funny that they aren't gonna go online necessarily to renew. And so if you would take some of these cards, or bring some of them to the table and remind people to renew, because most people, they don't think about it because it's not the first of the year. It's kind of when school starts again for the students. And they go, oh yeah, it's not expensive, we can do that to support the A&M Trust. So please help us get the word out that it's time to do that. Please, thank you.
Yeah, great reminder, Lisa. Remember, our membership actually runs January 1 through December 31st of each year, but you can actually start renewing your memberships as early as November 1st for the next year. So you get a 60-day window there in the beginning of the year or before the year actually starts to renew. And for our live stream viewers, you can always go to bcamc.org and join on bcamc.org. And if you'd like a paper membership, unfortunately come to one of our events. There's also a PDF you can fill out online and mail in if you'd rather that. So, Carl, if you'd introduce our speaker, please.
Thank you, Chris. I have the pleasure of introducing Dr. Joyce Alexander to y'all. Dr. Alexander was appointed in June of 2015. She is the 6th Dean of the College of Education and Human Development at Texas A&M University. She is also the current holder of the Rita Haynes Dean's Endowed Chair and is a professor in the Department of Educational Psychology. She received a BS in Psychology from Texas Wesleyan University and a Master's of Arts and a PhD in Educational Psychology from the University of Georgia. Prior to her time at Texas A&M, Dr. Alexander served as Executive Associate Dean in the School of Education at Indiana University, Bloomington, where she had been a member of the faculty since 1992. Before assuming the role, she served as chair of the Department of Counseling and Educational Psychology for 6 years. Her research interests include development of child interest, motivation, and development of expertise in children. Her most significant work examines the growth of science interests long-term from early childhood through age 18. Dr. Alexander has supervised 20 student dissertations, served as a journal reviewer for 12 journals, and is currently on the educational editorial board of Metacognition and Learning. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Joyce Alexander.
All right, well, we're 6 feet apart, so I'm gonna take my mask off so you can hear me. All right, just what's fun to build on the introduction. If any of you subscribe to Car and Driver, last month's issue had an article written about my research. So if you just want to see something funny, it's probably the most read thing I've ever been involved with, an article in Car and Driver. Who knew that this would be me? All right, so I want to talk a little bit about things that are going on in the College of Education and Human Development. Maybe I should turn that. Okay. All right, I want you to be able to hear me, but I also want to see what's actually up on there. All right, so 20 things you didn't know. So the first thing you didn't know, maybe, no, okay. Gotta get all right. Okay, do one for me. All right, so the first thing you didn't know is we do much more than education. We have a variety of degrees, everything from human resource development to tech management. We do all the health and kinesiology degrees. We also do sports management, all the teacher preparation stuff you can think of, as well as educational leadership preparation. Okay. There we go. We have about 7,000 students in the college. Just let that sink in for just a minute. Most people think of our college as being rather small. 7,000 puts us at about the 4th largest college on the campus. And, you know, one of the things that universities look at is sort of where we rank. And rankings are based on the amount of research dollars that we gain, how many times our faculty are cited, how tough it is to get in, which it's pretty tough to get into Texas A&M now, so that's an easy one. But we have gone up in the rankings since I got here from 52nd to 34th, and we held steady at 34th. If you take out the privates, we're about 21. So I'll take it. I still want to go a little bit higher, but it's been a nice a move up. We also, in terms of that research dollars we were talking about, we've been hitting new highs, both in terms of number of new grants in a year. We had a year, 2 years ago, where we hit about 40 million. And then in terms of expenditures, our expenditures have been going up every year. And expenditures are the best marker of the work we do, because in any given year we can get a big grant, but that grant might be for 3 years. So we spend it a little bit over time for 3 years. This slide looks really boring, and that's why I put it here, okay? Because across the country we've seen drops in students who are in teacher preparation programs by as much as 40%. Over the last 7 or 8 years. And I want you to notice that that is not our situation. We have remained steady at about 1,800 students interested in teacher preparation in the college for the last 6 years. And that's good news. That means that we're helping to produce the teachers that Texas needs, and that Texas A&M is involved in not only admitting them, but then putting them out in the schools. I really like that. All right. Another thing you don't know, we've just finished celebrating our 50th anniversary. We're one of the youngest colleges at the university, and that's not a big surprise. There's a whole group that were sort of born around that same time, including vet med, business, liberal arts, us. We're all about 50 years-ish old. But it was a nice time to put some events in place to help sort of recognize the 50 years. Unfortunately, COVID killed all of them practically. But we were able to raise about $300,000 in scholarships for students through our 50th anniversary campaign. So that's a nice plus for our students. All right, some more things you don't know. Oh boy, that's small writing from here. All right. Okay, so I told you we're involved in health and kinesiology, and so our focus is really on keeping the public moving, all of us moving. And so that means everything from, we hosted the Active, Able, and Adaptive Conference, which is a conference for individuals with motor disabilities. And we talked about ways to include them in being physically active. And it started back in 1924 when they started the Department of Health and Kinesiology. Back then it was the Department of Physical Education. And those of you a little bit older than me remember that there were 4 hours of physical activity required for every student who went to Texas A&M. That ended in about 2013, 2014, as the state restricted the kinds of credits they would pay for students to take. But we still have about 10,000 credit hours a semester, a year, generated from students taking activity courses. And they're small courses. The students like them because it's a small group of students, and it makes a big university feel very small. Plus, they sort of keep each other on track to stay physically active. So I like that. All right. All right. So we're also doing research on diabetes. One of our researchers, Liedrich Sherman, he's looking at especially how African American and Black men handle their diabetes. And one of the things he finds is that their sort of beliefs about what it means to be a man get in the way of them asking for help and being able to manage their disease appropriately. So he's working on ways to help them work through that so that they can actively manage their diabetes. We're partnering with the Raise Your Hand Texas Foundation, which, if you all know, Raise Your Hand Texas is funded by Charles Butts. He's the owner of HEB. He put about $50 million into this foundation. Later, he started another foundation, which is designed, it's now called the Holdsworth Center. It's designed to train teacher leaders. But this foundation is targeted to train teachers. And so what I really appreciate what this foundation has done, they partnered with 10 colleges of education across the state. And at each of those, they promised to support 10 students for 4 years to the tune of $8,000. So for us, that's almost a free ride for these students who are studying to be teachers. We started out with 10, we went to 23, I think we're up to 37 students who are on these 4-year, $8,000 scholarships. It does make my tummy feel a little bit better when I go to H-E-B and I buy my groceries. So it makes me happy. All right, our researchers are also at the forefront of looking at muscle loss. So we look at the whole health. And so in this case, these are our kinesiology researchers. One of the things they're finding is that as we age, we tend to lose muscle mass. And some of that is natural, and some of that is due to illness, like cancer, anything that keeps you bedridden for a while. And what they're finding is that recovery from surgery, when we're a little bit on the older side, is really dependent upon our nutrition. And by that, it means that our bodies need to have enough protein to run the muscle engines, and the muscle engines keep us moving. So these researchers are looking at 2 different ways to supplement those muscle engines. The first is testosterone. It's true that both men and women have testosterone. And what they're looking at are folks who are at the late stages of cancer, who when they start are unable to self-care. In other words, they've lost enough muscle mass that the muscles won't engage long enough for them to, get to the shower, make their own breakfast, and other things like that, get dressed. And so on the left, Dr. Sheffield Moore is supplementing with small doses of testosterone. And what they're finding is that gives these individuals enough muscle mass to maintain their independence, even while the body is attacking. But this allows them some independence and some health and well-being and self-care while they continue to fight, in this case, cancer. Yeah. The other researcher on the right, Dr. McDukes, has been looking at individuals who suffer from COPD. One of the problems with COPD is your body can't bring in enough oxygen. Without oxygen, you can't fuel the muscles. It's the same kind of problem. And so what he's finding is there's a supplement that you can take. It's called HMB. You can get it on Amazon in big old bulk things. And what you do is you take a little bit in the morning, a little bit in the afternoon. And what it does is it helps the muscle. It prevents it from breaking down. And by preventing the muscle from breaking down, again, you can maintain health long term. Now, what Mick has taught me is that when we go in the hospital with a health event, because we are all going to have health events, that happens. When we stay in the hospital for 3 days, we lose 7% of our muscle mass. Yeah, that's a lot, okay? And so when we lose that percent, if we don't have the nutrition in place when we go in, and we don't do the work we need to do when we go out, then we're gonna lose more. And we're going to lose more, and we're going to lose more until we get into a cycle that the body can't recoup, okay? And we've seen that happen in some of our elderly friends and parents and grandparents. So the idea is get your nutrition in place before you go. Make sure you have your protein in there. And then afterwards, get right back moving. Do not sit down and get that protein going again. All right. Okay, this one is our work in bilingual education. You can imagine in the state of Texas, this is a pretty big deal. We have a lot of English as a second language learners throughout the state and bilingual. And what we've got is a group of researchers who have created a curriculum that teaches these young children English through science. That sounds funny, like why would you use science? Well, there's a couple reasons. One, science words don't translate often super well between English and Spanish. And so when the kids sit down to try to take a standardized test, they're still thinking in Spanish and having a hard time translating to the English and back. So it slows them down. And on a time test, that matters. Okay, so that's number one. But number two, what they're finding is that when the little kids, and we're talking kindergarten, first, second, and third graders, learn these highfalutin science words, and they go and they talk about these highfalutin science words, they start to think of themselves as scientists. They're like, yeah, man, I'm a scientist. And so what they're finding is that we're getting these young kids who then feel good about coming to school. And it has provided a little window. There's a whole curriculum that's now designed. And the fun thing about this curriculum is that we know it works. They got about $30 million from the federal government over a 12-year period to develop it. They can take it apart, put it back together. They know it works. And so now we're beginning to commercialize this with the intent that we can get this out to a lot more people. But it's not really the curriculum itself that is the key. It's the professional development that goes along with the teachers. So we'll be continuing to help teachers learn how to use this curriculum most effectively to support these bilingual learners. Okay, next one. Autism. Parents have trouble interacting with young children with autism just as teachers do. And we find that it's best if we can go into the home and help the parents find more effective ways to communicate with their children. But what we're going to talk about in a minute is Texas is a huge rural state. And because it's a huge rural state, there is not people situated all around the state that can go in and teach these parents how to interact with their kids in their homes. And so we are running basically training and support virtually. Now, when we first started this 5-6 years ago, that sounded like a moonshot. Now we're like, well, of course we're doing it that way. How else would we do it? But when we started, it was very cool. Now it's just pretty normal. But the nice thing is we know that it's helping parents interact more effectively with their children. And then we're seeing improvement as those kids go into schools in terms of better behavior. And so here's the part about the mental health. So we have huge swaths of Texas that have no mental health counselor at all within a 70-mile drive. And so what we're finding is that these rural counties are really struggling to provide mental health services. And so our training clinic, we have a training clinic for mental health counselors. We're partnering with the judges and better business bureaus in these rural counties. The counties give us a room, and our students who are supervised by our licensed faculty provide counseling remotely. Again, when we started this 10 years ago, this sounded super crazy. And now we know that we're all going to the doctor virtually, right? All the time. But the idea is that we're seeing the same improvement in these virtual sessions as we were face-to-face after four visits. And the one thing we hadn't anticipated, I guess we should have, in the rural counties, much of their 911 funding has gone to manage mental health issues. And as we've been able to work with the counties to decrease those emergencies, the counties are finding that they don't spend as much on emergency services. So they like partnering with us in the long term. Okay, another huge project we're doing, this is all over the state again. We have a researcher and her team who are working on supporting reading comprehension. She has a very clear model on how you teach kids how to figure out where the main idea is and what the supporting ideas are. And this all sounds like this shouldn't be that hard, but we do know that reading comprehension is one of the main problems that kids struggle with standardized tests, especially as they get into 4th grade and up. And so Dr. Wijakumar and her group have been focused on 4th through 8th grade, teaching kids better ways to do reading comprehension, and that includes writing, because that comes along. Reading and writing go together. And I can't brag enough on this lady. She every school she goes into improves in terms of the percent of students who pass the standardized tests in reading. And that's almost impossible, right? You can't design a curriculum to pass a standardized test. So it tells me she's really teaching them the basic underlying skills about how to do this. And in fact, there are several schools she's gone into in the Valley where she's moved them from 40% passing to literally 100% passing. And that included the special education students. So the work that's going on is just amazing. She's still developing. Part of it is an artificial intelligence program that gives the students individualized feedback while they're learning. Part of it is the teachers and how they manage the conversations and the discussions. But we are seeing huge changes. All right, talk a little bit about endowments, because endowments really do help elevate our work. Our first endowed chair was started in 1981. That was pretty recently. But we now have 13 endowed chairs in the college, and I really appreciate the donors who've stepped up to do that, because what that does is it gives each one of those high-tiered faculty just a little bit of money every year to help really engage and enhance the work that's going on. Makes a much bigger impact. Our recent endowed chair, the Hilliard Endowed Chair, helps. It's tied to the Huffines Institute, which is on sport performance and improvement. So, a large percentage of our undergraduate students do study abroad. We've gone all over the world, and we do provide a good amount of scholarships and financial aid to help offset that. Our goal is for them to see the world in a broader view, to get experience with cultures that are different from their own. And for some of them, they haven't left Texas. Like when they come to us, they don't have a passport. They've never left the state of Texas. I do have one scary little story. We took a group and we went to China, and one of the young men who had never left Texas got lost. And everyone was really worried, but he was a smart cookie, and he's used his Aggie ingenuity, and he met the group back at the hotel. And I give him a lot of credit for figuring out how to make that work in a very strange country. So yay. We don't lose students often. I just make sure that's clear. All right. One of the things that I've tried to do is really push impact of our work and bringing it down to what I call the dining tables of America. I want this work, I want people talking about it. It was part of the reason why I did the car and driver article. I want people talking about our work. And so every February, we host a Voices of Impact event in Bryan. 12 of our faculty do 5-minute TED Talks. This is really hard for our faculty because they like to go on and talk forever. And so they practice for like weeks and months beforehand to get it right. So they do a 5-minute TED Talk without notes. And we got the spotlight on them and everything. But they do a good job, and they try to bring their work down to something that everyone can understand. And so it's a fun little event in February. We always hold it in Bryan downtown. So I would just invite you to come visit us. Okay. Educator preparation. It's actually funny, even though the college is 50 years old, one of the very first classes, they were asking people to write down their jobs. And one of the very first graduates was a teacher. Okay. We didn't have a degree in teaching at that time. But, our work is really interwoven with Texas A&M for a long time. But we started the college 50 years ago, and Probably one of the coolest things we did is 1983, we worked with Dick Scobie, who was an astronaut on the Challenger. And he and his wife were in residence at Texas A&M. And we worked with them to develop a math and science teacher scholar loan program. So we were giving students loans to go through their training. And so that set the beginning of us becoming, we create the most math and science teachers in the state every year, pretty much. So it's a nice trajectory. We no longer have that loan program. It gets in the way with financial aid. We have other ways of helping. We have scholarships and other things, but not the loan program anymore. But it's nice to see that foundation that built upon Dick Scobie's work, and his wife is still involved with us. So it's actually kind of cool. All right. This shows the impact of our student teachers throughout the state and our teachers. So the heat map, the red spots show the really high density of our teachers, but you can see we're all over the place. So we had all the 5 major cities along the I-35 corridor, but we're out in El Paso and we're out in the Valley and in lots of little places in between. When you graduate about 650 teachers every year, yeah, you're going to be all over this state.
Does that number include all the people that maybe went a roundabout way to get to teaching, not necessarily through the college of education?
This is the students who graduate from the College of Education and Human Development, but it would also include people who came back for their masters, but it doesn't include people who have a Texas A&M degree, but who were alternatively certified through another program.
But it also includes secondary teachers who got their pedagogical studies in college. You
Right.
get a degree in biology, but you get your pedagogical teacher training in our college. It includes those.
Yeah.
Like a teacher certificate?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm. All right, and we're getting to the end here. A few years ago, we started a new program called Aggie Achieve. It's the first 4-year comprehensive residential program for individuals with intellectual disabilities at the college level here in Texas. Now, Tech has one that is not residential. They still live at home. But our students, they live on campus. They eat and breathe Aggie-ness, just like all our other students. And we integrate this into our training of special ed teachers. So our future special education teachers act as what we call Achieve Mates, and they help our Aggie achievers learn how to study, learn how to focus their time, and etc. They audit one college level class each semester. And then the rest of it is programming specifically for them that allows them to leave with an internship and get a job when they leave. So, and that's more about that. Okay, and all right. And so one of the things that ties our college together is that we tend to impact individuals on the individual level. And so I just want to say thanks to all of those teachers and everyone else out there who's impacting and helping to transform lives every day. I sometimes have to convince them that they're doing an amazing job. It doesn't feel like you're moving when you're going one person at a time, but it really does matter. So, okay, that's it. I'm open for questions. All right, go for it.
I'm married to one of your thoughts on the matter.
Perfect.
It's really wanting to hear and listen to you. What's the current situation notwithstanding, what's the biggest challenge you see facing education?
Well, if we wouldn't have had the last 5 months, I will say about 6 months ago, I sit on a state board from the Texas Education Agency, and I sit on the Greater Houston Partnership Education Subcommittee. And what I was really enjoying last legislative session was listening to the business folks and the education folks, and actually they were not that far apart. And it was kind of fun to, see them inch closer and closer and closer together until they came up with an idea in the last legislative session that gave schools more money per student, especially those most vulnerable students, the bilingual, the special ed students. That was, in my mind, an important step in the right direction. I've watched these schools be underfunded and had huge requirements on them to get everyone up to speed, and we all think that's a good thing. We don't want to leave anybody behind, to use, you know, Bush's term, but we can't do it without resources. So I think we made a huge step forward in the last legislative session in terms of funding, especially targeted to those most vulnerable populations. I'm worried, given the current economic situation, that what we'll see is they'll back off that commitment. If they do, we won't know if the extra money has worked. A, they haven't had it very long, and B, we had COVID in the middle of all this, so any experiment is tainted terribly. So we'll wait and see.
Does your department have the round building?
No. Well, okay, let me tell you about that building. That building is called the 21st Century Classic Building. It has a 600-person auditorium, a 300-person auditorium, and 12 100-person auditoriums. Now you're saying, 600 people? I can't imagine a 600-person auditorium. Well, what this is, the reason it looks round is because these are auditoriums in the round. Okay? So the instructor and the furthest student is no more than 8 rows apart, even with 600 students. So I'm really curious to watch these roll out this fall. It's ready. I mean, although we're not going to have 600 students, we're going to have 40% on Tuesdays and not Thursday. But the idea is that it will alleviate some of the space issues on campus. We've had a terrible space issue for a long time. And in fact, it's the main reason why the campus, about 5 years ago, decided to stop growing for a while. We had no more classrooms, we had no more parking, we had terrible roads, so we've been working on all these things. And so once we get all this done, by the way, there's another building right across the railroad tracks that has yet to break ground, which will be a lab building for biology and chemistry. So it will house all the labs.
What do you call that?
Yeah, and that will free up more space. Mud. You never apparently didn't call it mud.
Across the street from the West Campus Rock, that big parking area, 16.
Is that building next to Campbell's Rock?
Yes, it is. Yeah, and it's open. So in fact, our faculty are touring. A year ago, faculty had to apply to teach in that building. And so they have, and what they've been doing for the last year is learning how to teach in these very different lecture halls. And so it'll be really, I am seriously curious about how this is going to work. So we'll see. But it is ready to go. It's open. Faculty are actually coming back to an open house this week to see how they've redesigned the classrooms for COVID. And so it'll be pretty interesting.
Where are your special services office, your special needs kids, they kind of got moved when they
They're now in the student services building. It's that brand new building where Gazelle Hall used to be.
So it's
Gazelle.
all vacant.
Yeah, right in the middle of campus. Yeah. No, White Creek and all that now.
Look over there.
Great, and then also with your emphasis on mental health, what are we doing on campus now that we no longer offer counseling services, mental health counseling services as much as our students?
Oh, we do. We still have mental health counseling to our students.
That they were referring to doctors.
We've always, so I won't say always. There's certainly been a trend over the last 10 years that the needs on campus for mental health services have often outstripped on all universities the capacity to handle. And part of it is I sat on I know a little bit more about this because I sat on a subcommittee that was thinking about this kind of stuff. And one of the things that happens is that people call and say, well, I need to talk to my instructor. I can't really help you there. You're going to have to talk to your instructor. So they get a lot of calls for things that isn't truly what we would call mental health issues. It's, I can't figure out how to pay my bill. And I'm sure that's causing them some distress. But I don't think we need mental health counselors who are trained for suicide prevention to deal with that. So they're working, so what they're trying to do is a little bit better triage to get them to the right place. Like if your issue is with finances, let's get you to financial aid. If your issue is with academics, let's get you to the student success centers. Let me help you here if you have true mental health issues. So we're doing that. They're in that building. They are servicing 24/7 almost right now, often telehealth as well.
We don't have as many mental health professionals in our community.
It's true, this community.
I know we're not rural.
Yeah.
But we don't have as many, so if we're referring
Right.
some of these kids who are in a real weird time now, like the
Yeah.
last one.
Yeah.
If we don't have anyone to in the hospital just closed down.
Right.
Facility. So I just want to be sure there are things available for these kids, because especially what we're seeing with this COVID, we're seeing more
Yep.
suicide, we're seeing
Yep.
kids that have been abused mentally or physically. I just want to be sure there's something there to help these kids, that this is going to, for some of them, be their escape to come to school.
Right. And I agree with you, this community has not been able to support a good number of mental health professionals for a while. What I am finding is that the telehealth concept is becoming more and more common and accepted, and I think it's providing more access to folks as well. So I'm hoping we can pull from Dallas, Houston, wherever else we need to on a telehealth basis, rather than a face-to-face. So this is going to be, I hate to say it, a big experiment. We're going to try to figure this out as we're going. So, yeah.
Just want to change pace a little bit. I was under their department. I did the student teaching for, or supervised student teaching for 11 years. And just to kind of give you an idea about, I guess, how strong the program is. They have a career fair every fall and spring. And when I left 2 years ago, actually 2.5 years ago, about the spring career fair had over 200 school districts. Now, what does that mean? Well, when I started 11 years ago, at that time, I think we had 50 or 60. And what I'm saying to you, as far as the growth goes, I'm talking about Puerto Rico, Costa Rica, California, Canada. All these school districts came to A&M to recruit A&M teachers. And I wonder why that is. Well, the supervisors that I had associated with, we required our students to wear a coat and tie, and the girls dress to the nines, just to go to career fair or to go to their interviews. There are other schools fairly close to here that would go to the career fair in shorts, t-shirts, and pajamas. And I'm sorry, but what we taught our student teachers is, it isn't about you. It's about, do you fit in our environment? We're looking for someone that fits. The summary of what I'm trying to tell you is that some, I'll say, of those school district people kept coming back, and they won't go to other schools, colleges, career fairs, because they can find what they want right here at A&M.
Well, to make a point, we do not have a teacher that does not have a job if they want a job. I mean, if they want a job, they've got a job. There's 100% truth to that.
So where do you stand in the state as far as the number of teachers put out in education?
We are not a number one. We're in the top 5 or 6. We're the biggest research active institution that also puts out a large number of teachers. So we take both our research mission and our service to the state in terms of the land grant mission very seriously.
Who puts out the most?
I think Texas State puts out, I mean, it goes around, you know, but Texas State puts out a lot.
It goes back and forth between us and them.
Mm-hmm.
There's like, we've been number one, we've been number one in math and science, and number one in special education, number 2 in bilingual education, number 3 in English language arts, social studies for the last 5 years, somewhere in that.
We're always somewhere in that top 5-ish. And I'm okay. I don't want to be number one. Honestly, I don't want to be a teacher mill. What I do is I want to put out great quality teachers who have exposure to some research, who are then prepared to do amazing stuff. So we don't have to be number one. Other questions? Okay. Thank you for inviting me. I really do appreciate it. It's fun.
Thank y'all. One more round of applause. All right. We've got a quick couple of announcements. I talked earlier about the Aggie meetups, those smaller events. We actually had one last weekend. It was yoga at Lake Walk. So I'm not sure if any of y'all did the yoga, but there was an Aggie meetup there. A couple of different Ags got together and did yoga out at the lake. There's another one, a picnic in the park on August 19th. Bring your own picnic if you'd like to participate in that. It's at Wolf Pen Creek. Out on August 19th, and more details are on the website. Bring your own picnic, and then what you're all looking forward to the most probably is Howdy Hour, which is August 27th at Ozona's. So don't forget, we've got a lot going on still. We're going to be having monthly luncheons unless something drastic happens, but we should have memberships. Don't forget memberships, and then any announcements, Lisa? I see one.
Coach Blair is having Coach Blair charities occur this week. So if you want a ticket to the celebration dinner, I have some. We are limiting it to 450 instead of 900 people, which is what we usually have. If you're coming and bid on the auction, we have individual pins for everybody that walks in there. So you aren't grabbing the same pin and spread of drugs. When you aren't eating your dinner, which is provided this year by Texas Roadhouse, then you'll wear your mask. We aren't going to go and say, okay, let's have a COVID-19 party. We're going to have where you can see people and still benefit special education and the wonderful. Have y'all seen the Fun for All playground lately? Crow Field is looking awesome. We're going to get it open probably in September. We're doing punch out now. We've come a long way with a real fine community project. So I have those tickets. I have membership cards. Y'all, please come participate. Thank you.
And a website, Lisa, for Coach Blair Charities for anyone on live stream.
It's Thursday night at 6 o'clock and it's $20. And that's all you can eat and drink.
Thursday night, Coach Blair Charities. All right. And a website, coachblaircharities.org. If I'm pretty sure it's coachblaircharities.org. Thank you, Ags. If y'all have anything else for the good of the cause, we'll let you all enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Thank you so much.